President Trump signed a number of executive orders in recent weeks targeting law firms that pose a threat to him. Those orders have the power to shut the firms down for good. Scott Pelley sat down with just a handful of attorneys for 60 Minutes to talk about the impact of Trump's threats. They say the rule of law itself is at stake. Take a listen.
You're not suggesting that the president's running a protection racket.
I am. I'm suggesting that he is violating the rule that says you can't offer a thing of value in return for an official act. That happens to be the definition of bribery. Anybody else who came to Washington and said, I will give you $100 million of free legal services if you do this for me, would be convicted of a bribe.
Kecker is helping recruit law firms nationwide to fight back. More than 500 firms, large and small, have signed up in support.
We don't have to agree on politics, but we do have to agree that the legal profession has to protect the rule of law in the United States, which means lawyers and judges need to be independent from the executive branch.
If the president brings the legal profession to heel, what situation is the country in then?
No rule of law. You're in a dictatorship. That's what happened in China. It happened in Russia. These are legal systems that look like legal systems, but in fact are controlled by a dictatorship.
CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson joins us now for much more on this. Jessica, what do you make of these arguments? And do these lawyers have any option whatsoever to fight these orders from the president?
That's a great question. And absolutely. I mean, what we see going around is that law students have actually made this huge database, and it includes basically 3 buckets of law firms. Those that the law students think have essentially capitulated to the Trump administration, those who are working with the Trump administration, and those who are filing lawsuits and saying, you can't do this. And some of the reasons why the argument is you can't do this, we just heard in that clip. There are other arguments related to First Amendment concerns. The idea that the government can't say, we are barring your security clearance, you're not allowed to function and talk to higher level members of the Department of Justice because we don't like what you've said and done. So absolutely, law firms can fight back, and many are.
And I also want to ask you about this because the president basically suggested it's not his role to uphold the Constitution while in the White House. Can you walk us through what his role is as sitting president?
So we know under the Constitution that there are 3 branches of government. He is obviously head of the executive branch. Under the Constitution, he is charged with taking care to faithfully execute the laws. He also takes an oath under the Constitution. And he did, what's interesting is make this argument a few years ago in a case involving Colorado and the Insurrection Act and whether or not he could be barred from the electoral ballot. And his argument was there's a difference between the oath he took and the oath that other people take that says, I will support the Constitution. I have to be honest that I think that is absolutely parsing words that weren't intended to be parsed. The idea that the leader of one of our branches of government doesn't need to support and uphold and defend the Constitution is something that I think would alarm the majority of the legal community.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, do you think that the president probably likely knows that it is his job to uphold the Constitution? Do you think this is just maybe a distraction for other things going on with his administration right now?
Oh my, this is, I think, the evergreen question for so many issues where the president knows, and then let's fill in the blank, that he has to support the Constitution, or that birthright citizenship is part of our Constitution, or that he can't run for a 3rd term. And I think there's endlessly this question of, is he truly making the argument? Is the argument to distract from, don't look at what's happening with respect to Doge, or don't look at what's happening over here? Or is it a little bit of both? And I wish that I had a specific answer for that, but certainly it gets us talking about the idea that the President of the United States is saying things like, I don't know if people are entitled to due process, despite the fact that the Supreme Court explicitly says that they are. Or I don't know that I have to defend the Constitution, despite the fact that he's head of one of the three branches. Yeah. So it certainly does get us talking about the legality of these issues.
Yeah, it gets us talking as we are doing right now. Jessica Levinson, thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.